going on, everyone? I am pretty sure I've never done anything like this on the channel before, so this is the first time for me. And yeah, a little nervous. I hope this goes well, but we are going to be looking at something I've never looked at before. The AtGames Legends Mini. Now this is super cool. This is an arcade in a box, basically. Connects up to your television, you're able to play games on it, and yeah, you're even able to add stuff to it too. We're going to be looking at that a little bit down the road, not in today's video, but in a couple weeks. And I just wanted to give you my thoughts on this, take a look at it, let you know what's on it, and just walk through it. I'm pretty stoked. So we're going to capture some gameplay footage, we're going to take a look at the game, and then we'll come back for final thoughts. Now, I don't usually go in for stuff from AtGames. I've had some bad experiences with some of their stuff in the past, and I don't know, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, but the Immortal John Hancock did a review of this machine a few months back, and I was intrigued by it. It was something that I was definitely curious about, and I found it on sale at GameStop, and I decided to pull the trigger on it. I guess GameStop was clearancing out all their AtGames stuff, and, well, AtGames' loss was my gain, so I picked this up. This is the Legends Gamer Mini Arcade Kit, and what this does is basically an at-home arcade machine without having to have the entire room taken up by an arcade stand-up. Now, out of the box, I gotta be honest, I was pretty impressed by this thing. I think the joystick setup itself is really solid. It has good heft to it, like it doesn't feel like something I'm going to break, it doesn't feel like it's poorly made. There are very clearly triggers and switches in the joystick, so all 8 directions that you're able to move it, you're gonna hear a switch click, which is pretty nice. I mean, it kind of reminds me of an old SNK machine, and there's 8 buttons to configure for it. You also have a rewind feature, you have the coin press button on it, and I was really interested in it, and it also came with this neat little puck thing. And now the puck is actually the thing that drives everything. This is your emulation machine right here. This is where everything lives. And all you really need to do with it is you provide power and hook it up to your TV and you're good to go. It's pretty much always on at that point. And I figured, looking at the instruction manual, that this is going to be a pretty quick and easy setup and that everything was going to be fine. And while it was super easy physically to set up, the mental frustration I went through trying to get everything paired and everything connected and for it to work was incredibly frustrating. Like you're seeing here the situation that I went through, where I was able to easily get things paired. Like I got the controller paired to the puck, which, by the way, I don't know why they didn't just come paired out of the box. Like if you're going to ship the devices together, pair them up. It's not that hard. It's pretty simple. Getting it actually physically paired through the Bluetooth connection system they have in the machine itself is pretty easy. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as just pairing them and you're good to go, because once I paired it, I couldn't play. I was just stuck on a screen saying press A to connect to the GamesNet, and nothing would help. Nothing would dismiss it, nothing would work. The joystick was completely non-functional, and I went through about a half hour of trying to figure out what was going on before it just somehow worked. And then I had to update my firmware. And updating my firmware was, once again, just another headache. Like the firmware itself, super easy to install, super easy to download. And once you do, you're presented with a pop-up that asks you if you want to install. All right, install from the pop-up. And then I got back to the screen, and then, once again, I'd completely lost functionality of the joystick. Nothing was working. And no matter what, I couldn't bring up the Bluetooth connection screen to get it repaired. And then all of a sudden, after 15 minutes of just kind of waiting around for it to work, it just paired back up and everything was fine. So it is a finicky device in that regard. I don't necessarily think it's enough to make me not want to buy it, but you know, there's a phrase that a first impression is a lasting impression, and this one was a lasting impression that really put a bad taste in my mouth. But I'm happy to say that the machine pretty well redeemed itself once I actually got into game. So one of the things that I really like about this is it comes preloaded with 100 games on it, and there's some pretty notable stuff on here. Like you get Space Invaders right off the bat. I love seeing Soccer Kid on here. I thought that was pretty cool. You get the Super Star Wars series, so you get Super Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. There's just a really good mix of classic games on here. Operation Wolf, The Lion King, The Legend of Kage, 3 Joe and Matt games, The Jungle Book. Just get some really clever stuff on here, and I like that all this stuff is on here. I even like that they included Fix-It Felix Jr. I thought that was really cool that they included something so new on here. And there's a lot of stuff that you're able to go through and play, and I'm always down for games like Burger Time. I mean, I love having Burger Time on here. It's a fun game. It's a very simple game, so I'm not surprised it's on here, but it's just kind of a nice thing to toss in and have on hand. Now, you're also able to go to a thing called ArcadeNet, where with a subscription, you're going to be able to stream up to 200 games onto your machine. Now, these aren't ones you physically download onto your device. These are ones you're just going to stream. And from what I was able to experience, it actually plays pretty well. It also has the BYOG feature where you're able to bring your own game and add it on. Now, you do need to legally own the ROM, and they give you all the warnings about needing to legally own the ROM, etc., etc. So make sure that you're doing the right thing and you own the ROM
you know, legally. The App Store is where you're going to find things like the different pinball tables, which is pretty cool. This does actually play pinball pretty well from what I understand. I haven't done it yet myself. One of the things I really like about AtGames with their pinball stuff is that they're really good about making quality digital pinball playing options, and that's something I really like. But we're here for the games. We're here to play the games. Let's hop in. Let's take a look at Tetris Plus and see how that goes. Now, Tetris Plus was a fantastic game. I mean, it's essentially Tetris. There's some different options on there, but I just jumped in and played classic Tetris. And I will say, Tetris with an arcade stick, I learned this when I was at the Classic Arcade here in Michigan last year. It's definitely something that's a little bit more finicky to play with a joystick than it is with a control pad. And that's not to say it's bad. It plays just fine. It's really fun. I really had a good time with this one. It looks spectacular. It reminds me a lot of Money Puzzle Exchanger with the kind of like over-the-top characters and voices and stuff like that as you're playing. And that's all right. You know, sometimes it's a good idea to have something over-the-top and fun. And Tetris Plus played great. I thought it was wonderful. The next game I played was Super Star Wars, and apparently I just needed a joystick to become adept at this game. Like, not that I was good at it, but I am so bad at Super Star Wars. Like, I have such a hard time playing it, and I don't know why. But with a joystick, I was having a blast. I played it just fine. I was running through Tatooine. I was blasting scorpions and weird bat guys and these weird goblin dudes that hop out that you have to shoot from behind the crate dragon skulls. And I thought it looked and played really well. Like, there are different visual options you're able to set. We're going to go into that in more depth at a later date when I go into more different settings and adding your BYOG features and things like that. But yeah, it works and it looks really good. But you can't just play platformers and puzzle games. One of the things that I always think of when I go to the arcade is beat-em-ups. And Water Margin is a game that I had previously played on my Evercade, and I really enjoyed it there, but the Evercade handheld is pretty small in the grand scheme of things, so popping this up onto the big screen and not having to worry about the handheld Evercade and its mini HDMI connection was really kind of a relief. And being able to get in game and actually play this and see it on a big screen with a real controller that's meant for fighting games and beat 'em ups was really awesome. Like, this was so much fun to play, and it's a gorgeous looking game, and it just plays so brilliantly well that I'm really happy this is on here. This is the type of game that I want to see on a machine like this. And look, this is 100% fantastic. Now, this one here, this is Jaleco Rally Big Run, and I'm going to be honest with you, this one didn't do anything for me. Like, this was, and it's not anything that the AtGames did. This is just me playing a game that I had never played before, and I like Jaleco stuff. I wanted to give it a shot, and it's really boring, y'all. Like, it's just, you kind of drive, and that's it. Like, every once in a while, you're going to have a obstacle show up, another car show up on the track that you need to avoid, but like, legit, I wasn't turning at all. I just had the accelerator held down and I stayed square right in the middle of the track, and I didn't have to worry about hitting anything or moving, and that's not fun. That's not a good time. So if you get this, you can skip Jaleco Rally Big Run. It is a decidedly below average racing game. Now, Gate of Doom. Now, that was super cool. This reminded me so much of games like Baldur's Gate or Gauntlet and things like that, kind of like a version of that. It's a dungeon crawl hack and slash, and it's really well done. I played as the Bard here, which I don't know how it's a Bard. There's no music involved. I just turn into a Medusa head every once in a while. And it's a truly challenging and difficult game, and I can see how this one is definitely going to be something where I'm going to want to keep coming back to it, but it's going to be a frustrating time to play. It emulates great, but there are certain things about it where just having to line up to attack can be a bit challenging with just the way the game is designed. It being isometric makes things a little bit flaky as far as lining up a shot, and that's a bit frustrating, but hey, it's still a pretty fun game. It's still a good dungeon crawl, and I think it looks really nice. Now, I played Andro Dunos 2 on the Switch a couple of weeks ago. I suggested it for last month's eShop Hidden Gems, and its original title, Andro Dunos, is on this machine, and there's just something right about a shooter in an arcade, isn't it? It's like, it just feels right. Like, having it in the palm of your hand, being able to play it at home is fantastic, but playing it on a joystick and playing in what feels like a classic setup is kind of magical. And this game is magnificent. Like, as much as I love the second one, this is nearly as good as it. This is a classic horizontal shooter. It is just gorgeous to look at. Tons of different weapons and power-ups and abilities you're able to use, and upgrades, and just all these different fantastic enemies. It's such a natural fit on a console like this. it really shows the dedication that AtGames had. It wasn't something that I expected to be on here. Like, I didn't look at the games list when I picked this up. I was just like, this will be cool, and I liked the fact that it actually had the option to use it as a PC controller, so that was the main reason I got it. If I didn't like any of the games that were on the machine, I at least had that ability to play some of my games on my PC. And this one actually just kind of nails it. This is really good. Next up is a arcade version of an NES game that I used to play, and that's the Astyanax, and I had never played the arcade version of this, and it's very different than the NES release. Like, the NES release is kind of methodical. This one's significantly more frantic. There's a lot more happening on screen, and I think that's to its benefit and detriment. Like, it's definitely fun to be a little bit more on your toes as you play an arcade game, but it didn't feel terribly responsive to me. Like, jumping and attacking should be a little bit more fluid than jumping, pressing the attack button, and hoping the animation plays to fulfill the attack. And I don't know if that was the machine or if that was the way the game played, since I never played the original in the arcade. It was... I don't know. It's fun, don't get me wrong, and I love the way it looks. It's definitely an upgrade over the NES version, but I don't know if this is an emulation issue or just the way the game was initially designed. Next up, we have a fighting game called Breakers. Now, I'd never heard of this game before, but I was looking for fighting games to play, and seeing this on here made me very happy. I am super stoked to find a fighting game I've never heard of, and it's going to take some getting used to because the mechanics are a little bit funky. It was kind of hard to pull off some moves, and I think that's more on me than anything with the machine. I am moderately concerned that it could be a lag issue going over Bluetooth, that I wasn't able to pull things off consistently, but the game itself is a lot of fun. It reminds me of Eternal Champions, but it's actually enjoyable, so, you know, if you like Eternal Champions, then you'll really like this one, because this game's actually fun to play. I dig this one. I thought this was really neat. Good variety of character designs. I thought the gameplay mechanics were good, although a little bit difficult to pull off, and I think it's fun. Finally, we are going with a classic arcade game. This is one I mentioned briefly earlier, and that is Burger Time, and this is the arcade version of Burger Time. There's Super Burger Time on here as well, but arcade Burger Time is one of my favorites. And I am really happy with how well this plays. Like, it's just classic Burger Time action, classic arcade fun. It looks and sounds wonderful. The strategy of being able to line things up and drop the toppings and the buns onto the enemies to make sure that you're able to get them, as well as hit them with the pepper when you need to. Like, it doesn't get better than this. Burger Time is fantastic. So final thoughts. Let's go back over to the chair and we'll wrap it up.
All right, so final thoughts on the AtGames Legends Gamer Mini Console emulation arcade stick device. Now, it does a lot more things than what we're just showing in this video. In future videos, we're going to look at adding our own games to it, using it as a controller on the PC. There's a lot of functionality built into this thing, but the main thing we're looking at right now is out of the box, how is it? It's a pain in the ass to set up. I had a ton of trouble getting the stick paired to the actual receiver device. And then when it would pair, I had to do a firmware update, and then that took another 25 minutes to get through that, while still trying to, once again, get things paired back to it. Like, it just completely forgot about the controller that was already hooked up. But once it was hooked up, I mean, it worked pretty well. This is a pretty cool device. Now, I'm pretty sure GameStop has removed all these from their website. I actually picked this up at GameStop a few months ago when it was on sale for like $40, something like that. And I'm pleased with the purchase. Like, just the fact alone that I can use it as a controller on my PC for arcade games there is worth the money alone like that. But from a perspective of, do I want to use this? Do I want to subscribe to the AtGames live service or things like that? I mean, that remains to be seen. I need to do a little bit more research, see what games are offered. Off the bat, the games that are on the device are pretty cool, like being able to play Super Star Wars and Aladdin and Water Margin, which I had only ever played before on my Evercade, so getting able to play that on an actual arcade stick on a big screen, it was pretty cool. Do I think it's worth it for everybody? No, absolutely not. This isn't a device for everybody. Most of the AtGames stuff isn't a device for everybody. There's always some kind of problem baked in, unfortunately, but I think for me personally, I think it's pretty cool, and I'm pretty darn happy that I own it. The proof is going to be in the pudding when I actually start to mod it and add different things onto it other than just what comes stock right out of the box, but for now, this is pretty cool. Let me know in the comments down below if you have an AtGames Legends Gamer Mini at home. Please hit like, please subscribe if you're new around here. If you are just discovering this video, I do a couple videos a week where I talk about retro and modern games, and I would love to have you stick around, kick the tires on the channel, check things out. We're growing. The show's growing exponentially, and I'm happy to have new people here, so please stop by. hang out for a little while. I think you'll like what you find. Hey, if you really dig the work I do, consider becoming a monthly Patreon sponsor or a channel member like the folks you're seeing on screen right now. Channel members and patrons get ad-free early access for a donation of as little as $1 a month. They also get behind-the-scenes access. They get to vote on polls, they get to suggest things, and we do monthly Q&A sessions, as well as exclusive updates so they know what's coming up next for the channel. Till next time, folks, I've been Jay. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. Remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.